We are 6 videos into this crispy chicken wing series and the saga continues. In this episode, we're gonna put potato starch head to head with rice flour to see which one will help wings get crispier in the oven. And I can tell you that this makes the absolute crispiest chicken wing we have ever made, hands down. For the full ingredient list, check the description box below, but enough talking, let's get cooking. So the first thing we gotta do is we gotta make our crispiness mixtures. I'm gonna put a little bit of baking powder inside both of them. I think the baking powder really enhances the starches. So we're gonna start off by putting a tablespoon of baking powder in each one of these containers. The baking powder is a combination of cornstarch, baking soda, and a few others. And this particular brand is the Rumford brand. This is the brand I like to use because it doesn't have any aluminum in it. The baking powder definitely works better in combination with the starches than just the starches alone. We found that out in a previous video. So now we're gonna put 2 tablespoons of each starch in there. So I got my potato starch, and I keep calling this starch, but this is a rice flour, not rice starch. You can see this potato starch is super fluffy. So even though I say tablespoon, is a big heaping tablespoon. And now we're gonna do the same thing with the rice flour. 2 big tablespoons. So for our spice mixture on this episode, we're gonna go with a Mexican taco flavor. We're gonna start off with some of my base seasoning. This is a blend of garlic powder, onion powder, salt, and pepper. And I call it the base seasoning for that very reason. This is gonna be the base of a lot of seasonings. So now we're gonna add a tablespoon of some low sodium taco seasoning. And I got the old El Paso here, and we're gonna have to shift over to the pour spout. I could already hear the comment section on this, that this already has some cornstarch in it. I already know that. So we'll put 2 tablespoons of that in there. Next thing we're gonna use is the Tajin. I used this in a previous episode where we grilled some wings outside. This is an unbelievable seasoning. I love combining this with taco seasoning. So we'll put 2 tablespoons of that in there. And now we'll mix all these seasonings together. So I found out over making a course of these videos that adding a little bit of oil before helps the crispy additive bind to the chicken skin, and it makes it way crispier. So sometimes I was doing it dry, sometimes I was doing it with the oil. The oil made a way better crisp on the outside. So let's add a little bit of oil to each one of these. Not much, just a tablespoon or 2. And now we'll add our crispy additives. So first I'll start off with this is the combination of baking powder and potato starch. I'm just gonna sprinkle it right over the top. And now I'm just gonna get in there with my hands until it is well coated with the oil and the starches and the baking powder. And if there's any pockets of starches, I'm gonna try to just take one of the wings and just rub it right in there until it's as well coated as we can get. And we've used all of it. That looks pretty good. So now I'll wash my hands and we'll do the rice flour. All right, so now I'm gonna do the same thing with this rice flour and baking powder. As I'm mixing these, you can definitely feel the difference in between the rice and the starch. The starch was very fluffy, where the rice is a little bit more grainy. I wonder if either one is gonna affect the crispiness. I think the concept of how either one work is that they pull the moisture out of the skin of the chicken, which allows it to get really crispy. So let's see which one does a better job with that. So we're gonna put the convection setting on and we're gonna start this at 385. I always mix these up, which side. I remember one time I did this and I didn't put anything in the middle and I couldn't remember which side was which because I took the thing out of the oven so many times. So I've got my baking sheet aligned with aluminum foil and parchment paper. The aluminum foil helps on cleanup, and the parchment paper, even though we're not putting anything on the sheet pan, is gonna help absorb some of the chicken fat so it's not just sitting in the pan and then starts getting smoky. So now on this raised grate, I'm gonna put a little bit of oil. These wings stick like crazy, especially during like the second and third flip. So I'm gonna try to make sure I well coat this to really minimize sticking in any like lost chicken skin that gets stuck on there. And I got this little marker here to tell me that this is the potato starch side, as this is our reigning champion right now for crispy chicken wings in the studio. And I'm gonna make sure that I pull the skin nice and tight on these. With the flats, we're gonna go presentation side up to start. These are some monster wings. I'm having trouble fitting even 9. on here. So now we're gonna do the same thing on our rice flour side. Flats, presentation side up, drumsticks, one up, one down. And we're starting the wings at 385, so it gives a little bit of a lower temperature to render some of the fat out of the wings before we bump it up to 425 to get them really crispy on the outside. Right before these go in the oven, I'm gonna give them a light spray with some avocado oil. So now these are gonna go in our 385-degree oven with the convection setting on for 20 minutes. So before I pull these out of the oven, I'm gonna preheat this to 425. So by the time we put them back in, it'll already be hot. Now let's grab those wings. We are off to a tremendous start. Both of these wings look absolutely fantastic. Looks like I took them out of the fryer. Both of them look like they're gonna be really crispy. I'm really excited to see where this goes from here, but now let's flip them and start to season them. So I'm gonna try to be really careful as I flip them. We don't have any sticking going on right now. And as soon as I say it, that one sticks a little, but I'm gonna be really gentle. You can see that some of the fat has started to render out of these wings. And that is the key element of this technique, is that you're using the chicken skin fat that's rendering out and dripping down to flip over and then expose it to the air, getting it crispy. So now our rice flour ones are sticking way less. I hope we can continue this trend every time that we flip it and they're not gonna stick. And we're not gonna murder this beautiful chicken skin. Now let's take some of that seasoning mix that we made before and we're gonna sprinkle it right over the top. We're gonna season these every single step so we don't have to season a lot with each one. There's gonna be plenty of seasoning on these wings by the time they are out of the oven. And just a quick spray of the oil. Get rid of any of those dry spices. And now these are gonna go in the 425-degree oven for another 20 minutes. Both of these wings are looking mighty crispy. So now we're gonna flip them, reseason them, and they're gonna go back in the oven for another 15 minutes. Then we're gonna flip them one more time, put them in for 5 minutes for a total of 1 hour in the oven. Just the more you flip them towards the end, the crispier they can get. This is usually where we'll see a lot of sticking. So let's see, you really gotta be nice and careful flipping them. So even though they're sticking, like that surface looks unbelievable. I know when I send that back in the oven, that's gonna get really, really, really crispy. So you can see we're having a little bit of sticking, but nothing that we can't handle with a little bit of patience. And if you're nice and careful, you can flip them without too much skin getting stuck. So we're able to flip our potato starch side pretty well without too much sticking, and these are starting to look really nice. Let's do the same thing with our rice flour side. Initially look about the same amount of sticking. I've done so many of these videos that I'm an expert at flipping wings that are stuck to a metal grate. And as I say that, I'm having a lot of trouble with this one. Oh, oh, oh. Open my big mouth. Oh. Now we'll go on the bottom. So I don't know if that was that one wing, but these rice flour ones are really sticking a lot. That's something that I'll consider when rating these. But again, we're after crispiness. Okay, the last couple flip pretty easily. Except for this one in the corner that I butchered. So now a light re-seasoning on top. I'll do this every single step. And no matter how many times I do this, it never seems to be over seasoned. So just real light each time. A little light spray oil. And these are gonna go back in that same 425-degree oven for 15 minutes before we pull them out for the final flip in another 5 minutes. These look absolutely awesome. I can't wait to see where these are going because every time we take them out, they just look even crispier. And I'm really impressed by both the potato starch and the rice flour. So these rice flour ones are a little crispier as I'm flipping them, and they're not sticking as bad as those potato starch ones. Let's give them a final re-season. Last spray with the avocado oil. All right, all right. All right, so these wings don't need to go back in the oven, but we are gonna flip them just so the presentation side is up, and we're gonna let them sit on the cooling rack for about 5 minutes. As they cool down, they get a little crispier. So we're gonna give them every opportunity to get really crispy. And these rice flour ones aren't sticking at all, which generally means that they're really crispy. And even this one that I butchered still actually looks pretty good. So first, our potato starch ones are gonna go on this side. These wings look awesome. And try not to crowd them up too much so they don't steam. And now our rice flour side. And now for our showdown palate cleanser, we're gonna throw in some of these pickled jalapeno peppers. It's gonna go with the whole Mexican taco seasoning that I put on there. Let's check out the reigning champion, the combination of potato starch with that baking powder. Let's check out this flat. You can see that the crispiness on this is a really nice visual inspection. Passes the look test. So now I'm gonna be really quiet. We'll see how crispy this is running the knife over. That's pretty crispy. So now let's see how crispy it tastes. Push it all together, push the meat off the bone. Probably let these cool a little bit. These are a really hot wing. That is a crispy, delicious wing. I love making these episodes. So good. And that was a very crispy wing, just maximum crispiness coming out of the oven. But let's check out one of the rice flour ones and see how they did. So again, on visual inspection, just touching this thing, this is way crispier. I still can't believe it's this crispy. It feels like it came out of a fryer. Let's run the knife over it and see what it sounds like. I mean, that sounds crazy crispy. So we'll push the meat off the bone. And here we go. It felt crispier. It was crispier. I can't believe the rice flour did this much. Let's have one of these pickled jalapeno peppers. Oh, those peppers are so good. The flat definitely was crispier on our rice flour side. Let's try a drumstick just to make sure before we hand the belt over. So this drumstick looks pretty crispy. Sounds mighty crispy. Well, I can say that the drumstick on the potato starch side was much crispier than the flat. So this is a better showing for potato starch. This was really, really crispy. So now let's check out this rice flour one. First, the sound. I mean, that is really, really crispy. That was really crispy too. That one was really hard to tell. I think I'm gonna have to go for a third wing on each one. I'm gonna do another drumstick on each side. Drumsticks are my favorite. First the potato starch. And now the rice flour. This has probably been the tightest competition we have ever had in all the series of these videos. But in this one, I'm gonna have to give the nod to the rice flour. The rice flour was just a touch crispier than the potato starch. Not to say that these aren't crispy. These were very, very, very crispy. These were like fryer crispy. I still can't believe they're made out of the oven. I can't wait to finish the rest of these wings. So if you want to check out the previous videos in this series, check those out right here. I'll see you there. Thanks.